All right, children, I think it's already past 2:30. We can start with today's class. Okay, so we have this, today's topics are filling up of electrons in the atomic orbitals and electronic configurations. And the rules you have to learn for filling up of the electrons. And the three rules that you're basically going to learn today are the Aufbau's principle, the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, and Pauli's exclusion principle. Each of these rules have their own important, they have their own important role to play, and they will help you in filling up electrons in the atomic orbitals. Now you know that each atomic orbital can take up a maximum of 2 electrons, right? And that is how I showed you in the last class how S subshell can take just 2 electrons, so it is 2. The second shell is made up of S and P, and each P has 3 subshells. So P has 3 orbitals. P is a subshell by itself, so it has Px, Py, Pz. Each of these can take 2 electrons. So a total of 8 electrons are there in the second shell, and that is how it went on. Today what we will learn is the arrangement of the atomic orbitals, which you have already done partly, and how the electrons will be filled up and what will be the electronic configuration of an atom with a certain atomic number P. Okay, so the first one that we will do today is the Aufbau's principle. Now for Aufbau's principle, we need to go to the other slide that I have prepared. Okay, this is what we will do today. Okay, now if you look at this slide here, I try to prepare this so that I can save some time in this time limit that we have for the class. All right, so you have the S subshells like I have always shown in the green, and the P orbitals are shown in blue, the D orbitals in red, and F in the yellow color. And of course, if there were more orbitals required, then those orbitals would have been called as a G. But these many orbitals, subshells and orbitals are enough to help us fill the electrons of the element with the highest atomic number also. Now, if you look at the atomic orbitals, this is for the first shell. All right, this is for the first shell. So this will be a K. This one will be an L. This is what you study, K, L, M, N in standard 10. But when you come to higher classes, you start talking in terms of the first shell, second shell, and so on. So this is K shell, or you can call it as the first shell, or this is the second shell, this is the third shell, this is the fourth shell, and so on. So each of these shells, I have shown the subshells also, and this is how it has been written. Now, how they are going to be arranged and how the electrons will be filled up. All right, for that you need to go to a way of understanding that, because if you remember, I told you that there is overlapping that occurs beginning from the 4s. When you are with the 3D and the 4s, there is an overlapping of the 4s subshell, and it comes before the 3D subshell. And that is how what happens is that the 4s gets the electrons first, and then the 3D starts to fill up. All right. So this overlapping becomes more and more complicated as you go to the higher energy levels, with the subshells getting more and more, undergoing overlapping. And therefore, it becomes difficult to assign their way of writing the orbitals in order of their increasing energy. But if you see here, I have written that it is going in the increasing order of energy level. So you can, if you have to put a sign like this, this is the red line in between is showing that the energy is increasing. So the one with the lowest energy is supposed to be filled up first, and then the energy, the next one. All right. Till 3P is not an issue. All right. But when you come to 4S and 3D, you see the 4S is coming before 3D. All right. Now, how we will arrive at this, let's go to that slide first and I'll show you. And then we have to do the N plus L rule also along with this. All right. So that slide, I think, is not here. Let me see, where is that slide? Okay, this is the one I'm talking about. Okay, so you see in this case, you can see that the writing of the atomic orbitals we have shown like this. So you write down the atomic orbitals like this, all right, in one under the other, and you keep writing the subshells. Now what you do is you start with 1s. So this is 1s, then you have a 2s, and then you have a 2p. So you start drawing diagonal lines like this. All right. So when you start drawing the diagonal lines, you see the first one to come is 1s. So the 1s is written. Then the next one that comes is 2s. So 2s is written. Then is 2p. Then is 3. See, after 2p, it is 3s. So it is 3s. But once you reach this point, then you have to go back again and start with from the one which is left out there. All right. Like in this case, after 2s, I will go back here and then we'll start with 2p and 3s. So then the 3s starts to fill up. After 3s, when I go back again, it is 3p and 4s that will be filled up before the 3d gets filled up. You see, after 3p, here after 3p, you have the 4s. So what is happening after 3p, 4s is being filled up, if the electrons are available, obviously. So after the 4s, it is time now you go back again and then you start from 3d. So from here, when I go back, then it is the 3d that is going to be filled up. So 3d. After 3d, it is the 4p. After 4p, it is the 5s. You see, again, there is overlapping. You see, this is 5s. So between the 4p and the 4d, we got a 5s. So again, you go back and again, when you try to, this is a very simple way of writing the atomic orbitals in the subshells in that increasing order of energy levels, and electrons are filled up. Now, the rule is that the electron will fill up that shell which is having the lowest energy. So the electrons start filling up the energy levels according to their increasing order of energies. Now, in this case, that means 1s, 2s, 2p. This way, if I'm going, what you learned in 9 and 10 was this is going to have the least energy, then this one, then m, then n. But now you see, because of overlapping, the subshells are kind of overlapping, and that normal thing that you had studied in 9 and 10 kind of gets disrupted when you are coming to the higher shells. That is why you just study till atomic number 20, because till atomic number 20, there is not much of a problem to understand at the in standard 9 and 10. But of course, when you come to the higher levels, you have to understand everything that is asked here. Now you see, this is what I am trying to tell you. Now there is one more thing that you need to understand, that how will I know which energy level should be filled up first? If suppose the Aufbau's diagram is not in front of you, then there is another one method by which you can find out actually how the electrons will be filled up in the shells. Now that is called as the N plus L rule. That is called as N plus L rule. Now this stands for the principal quantum number and L stands for the azimuthal quantum number. Okay. Now one example that we can take here is, let us take the case of 2s orbitals. Okay. So if I take the case of 2s orbital or 2p orbitals, and let us take the case of one more that we can take is, let us say, okay, 1 second, 2p, and let us say we are taking 3s, all right, and 3p. Okay, now you see, if I'm talking about 2s, then n is equal to 2 and s is equal to 0. So this one will become 0. So a total turns out to be 2. That is for 2s. Okay, for 2p, it is going to be 2 plus p is 1. So this turns out to be 3. So you see, it is following that order. Then it comes to 3, third shell, plus s is 0. So it becomes equal to 3. Now you see, in these two cases, the number is coming out to be 3. So should the 2 be filled up simultaneously? Will the 2 be filled up simultaneously? No. When such a case arises, then the subshell with the lower value of n will be filled up first. Okay. The subshell with the lower value of n will be filled up first. So this is actually 2p and this is actually 3s, you see in this case. So it is following the same order, 2p and 3s, you can check that. Why? Because when I'm applying the n plus L rule, then what is happening in this case is that the subshell with the lower value of n will be filled up first, in case if the n plus n for the two subshells in question have the total turns out to be the same. All right. So it is always like this. And if you talk about, let us say, 4p and 5s, what happens? Or let us say 4s and 3d. Let us compare this now. 4s and 3d. Okay. So in this case, what is happening? Let us see. I'll just clear this out for you. Now, if I'm talking about 4s, then what is the N standing for? N is the principal quantum number, so it is 4. And L stands for is equal to S, or subshell is there, so it will be 0. So the total is turning out to be 4 in this case. Now let us talk about 3D. Okay, now when I'm talking about 3D, in this case, it is going to be N will equal to 3. Okay. And D is equal to, in this case, what will I write? S is 0, P is 1, and D is 2. So the total is coming out to be 5. Okay. Now, which one is having a higher value of N plus L? Which one will be having a higher value of N plus L? You see, the higher value is that for 3D, that is 5. And for compared to 4S, for 4S, the total value is coming equal to 4. So definitely you see 4S is before 3D. That means the 4S will be filled up first and then the 3D will be filled up. So this is what is N plus L rule. All right. Anywhere when you are arranging these subshells according to their increasing order of energy levels, you will find that this rule is very much applicable, that is N plus L. And of course, the filling up of the electrons will always take place in the manner that the one with the lower energy will be filled up first, and then the one with the higher energy will be filled up. Always remember, the shell which is closer to the nucleus will always have a lower energy level as compared to the subshell which is away from the nucleus. All right. Between the same subshell, if I'm talking about 4S and 4P, 4S will always be at a lower energy level compared to 4P. 4P will always be at a lower energy level compared to 4D. Right? But because of overlapping between the 4P and the 4D, you have a 5S. Between the 4S and the 4P, you have a 3D. So all this is happening because of the overlapping. And to make it easy for us to understand, we follow the N plus L rule. And in that way, we are able to decide which energy level, which subshell will be filled first and which one will be filled afterwards. Okay, so this is everything you need to know about the Aufbau's principle. Just make sure that when you draw this table and you draw these lines, the diagonals, you are kind of, very cautious, or you are taking extra care to draw the diagonals correctly. If you do not place these S subshells under S and P under P, you are likely to make mistake. That is why whenever you have to draw like this. In the beginning, it becomes a little difficult to straight away write the atomic orbitals in their increasing order of energy. All right. So it is always advisable to use the Aufbau's table, and then you start writing the atomic orbitals. That way it will become easier for you. So this is about the Aufbau's principle. All right. The next important thing that you have to study in the filling up of the electrons is, the next one that you have to do is, let us see which one we'll do first. First, we'll do Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. All right, so this is the one, Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Now, what happens in the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity is that this is a little more in detail that we have to study. That is, degenerate orbitals are first filled singly and then the pairing starts. All right. Now, what does this mean? You need to understand what is a degenerate orbital, and you need to understand what it is saying when it is saying that the pairing starts. Okay, so we'll start with this one, that is Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Now, before I come to this diagram, let me explain to you that what are degenerate orbitals. See children, degenerate orbitals are those orbitals which are of the same energy. All right, if I am talking about, just now I told you that I was talking about, let us say 4S and 4P and 4D. All right, now these are all the subshells. All right, you can have a 4F also. So S, there is no worry because it is a shell, it is a subshell by itself, and it is an orbital by itself, and it takes a maximum of 2 electrons. All right, but when I come to 4P, the 4P orbitals are actually 3 in number. All right, so we did that in the previous class, that is Px, Py and Pz, and we were talking about its orientation along the 3 axes. Now this splitting occurs only when you are subjecting it to an electromagnetic field or a magnetic or an electric field. That is the Stark effect or the Zeeman effect. But otherwise, all the three of them possess equal amount of energy. That is, their energy levels are the same. Such kind of all right, I don't know what happened, children, why it happens like this. I don't know. Maybe there was some network problem. Okay, so let's continue with this. Again, I'll have to take the slides. Let me see now. Okay, so we were doing Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, right? Okay. So let's come to that. If I'm doing this Hund's rule, and I was trying to explain to you that what are degenerate orbitals and what should happen. So if I'm talking about the 4p orbitals, now in the 4p orbitals, we said that there are px, py, and pz. They are all of the same energy level. And when they are of the same energy level, what will happen is that they will orient themselves along the three axes in the magnetic field or the electrical field. That is a different thing. But otherwise, they are possessing the same amount of energy. Such kind of orbitals are written in the box diagram. When you represent the subshells and the orbitals in the form of boxes like this, you call these as the box diagram. So if I have to write the box diagram for the fourth shell, then the 4s is going to be 1. Then you see that I have given some gap. All right. Then when we do 4d, then again there will be some gap, and there will be 5 divisions here. Then you come to 4f, then again there will be a gap, and then this will have the 7 divisions. Okay. Now all these degenerate orbitals are shown under one line. That means there is no gap. You see there is a little gap here, there is a little gap here. This indicates that the energy levels are different. Okay, but if you are showing it under one line like this, that means that there is no energy difference between them, and they are called as the degenerate orbitals. All right. So according to Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, it says that when the electrons enter the degenerate orbitals, and if the number of electrons are enough, all right, to completely or to fill it completely or fill it half, then in that case the electrons will first enter singly and then the pairing starts. So let us see, if I'm talking about let us say an electronic configuration. Suppose if I have to do for the third shell, that is 3s, 3p and 3d. Let us do first, then we'll come to this. That is 3s, 3p and 3d. Okay, now before we come to this, the 1s is to be filled up. 1s is supposed to take 2 electrons, so it will take 2 electrons. All right, so the first shell is complete. Now let us come to the second shell. In the second shell, what will happen? You have the 2s, so the 2s will take a maximum of 2 electrons, so we write 2 electrons here. All right, these 2 electrons will be occupying the orbitals with opposite spin. So that part also we will do just now. So 2s2. All right, then you write the next one as 2p6. You see, now this is coming to 2p6. Now, in this case, 6 electrons have entered the p orbital. How will they enter the p orbitals? In this case, if you check, if this is the box diagram that we are showing, the first electron will enter singly. This is what you call it as saying singly, and then the pairing starts. That means then they start to pair up. I'm showing half an arrow for one electron. In your books, you will find that it's a complete arrow given, so that's okay. So you have one electron, first the one electron each in every px, py, and pz, and then the pairing starts. Okay. Then let us come to 3s2. Now, in the case of 3s2, there is no problem because there is only one orbital. One electron will enter here, and then the next electron will enter here. So that's it. But when you come to 3p, again the same thing will happen. You have three orbitals. Okay. The first it's going to occupy singly, and then the pairing will start. All right. So this is how it goes. Then after this, the 4s has to be filled up. So 4s will take 2 electrons. No worries, because s orbital is never a problem. And then when it comes to 4p, again in the same way it will happen. So this is what is called as Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Now, why is this rule so important? And what is the, why do the electrons, fill it up singly and then the pairing starts? The reason is that half-filled orbitals and completely filled orbitals have extra stability. All right. What does this mean? That any atom in its electronic configuration, if it has half-filled orbitals, all right, this is called as the half-filled orbitals, then it is supposed to have more stability compared to when it is not having half-filled stability. And this is, I think I have shown the d orbitals here, and here also you see the completely filled d orbitals. So the red one is showing that how the first 5 will enter, and the yellow one is showing how the next 5 will enter, provided you have those many number of electrons. Okay. Now let us start doing some, what we say, filling up of the electrons by taking some certain atomic numbers. Okay. So we can start with calcium. I think calcium would be a good one to start with. So suppose if I'm talking about calcium, all right, atomic number 20. So how will I write the electronic configuration for this? So in case of calcium, and it is 20, so let me first write down the shell, the subshells. So 1s, then you have 2s, then you have 2p, then you have 3s, all right, 3p. I'm writing them in the order of their increasing energy levels. Okay. Then it comes 4s, then comes the 3d, and so on. Okay, right now we will be doing those elements where we have to fill up till 3d, all right, or maybe 4p we'll take up afterwards. Now, if the atomic number is 20, how will the electrons enter? So the first 2 electrons will enter. Now you can delete this. 2 electrons will enter here. That is the 1s. So the first shell is completely filled. Then the next 2 electrons, because we have 20 electrons, enough electrons. So 2 electrons will fill up here in the 2s. Clear? Then the next 6 electrons will enter here. So this makes it an 8. So the second shell will have 8 electrons. The first shell is having 2 electrons. All right. Then comes to 3s. Again, the s subshell will always have 2 electrons. So we have a 2 electron here. Then the p is going to take 6 electrons. So it is going to take 6 electrons. So I will write a plus here. So this is making more sense. All right. So 6 plus 2, that is 8. But after this, you see, let me count the number of electrons that we have at the moment, and where will the next electrons go. All right. You see 8, 9, and 10, and 8 is 18. The next 2 electrons will enter the 4s. That is, it will enter the 4s. So that makes a total of 20 electrons. You see now, 20 electrons. Why 20? Because atomic number for calcium is 20. Its proton number is 20. We are talking about a neutral atom. Obviously, there will be 20 electrons. So we have shown the electronic configuration of calcium, and it will be written as 1s2. All right. 2s2. The superscript tells you how many electrons are there in that shell. So 2p6. Then you have 3s2, then you have 3p6, then you have 4s2. So this is the electronic configuration of calcium. All right, in details. What you did in standard 10 was you would write 2, 8, 8, and 2. All right, see, it is that only. But now the bifurcations for these have also been shown exactly as to where these electrons are entering. All right. Now, what happens to the 21st electron in the next element that is scandium? All right. It has an atomic number of 21. Right. So when I'm talking about scandium, atomic number 21, obviously all this will remain the same. So its electronic configuration, normally what happens is, in short, if you have to write, then in some books you will find it is written KL, and after that the electronic configuration is written. So K stands for 1s2, L stands for 2s2, 2p6. That means the first shell and the second shell are completely filled. However, let me write the entire thing for you here. So in the case of scandium, atomic number 21, that means proton number is 21. So the electron number is also 21. So we will write 1s2, then we will write 2s2, 2p6, all right, then 3s2, 3p6, okay, and then 4s2, all right. Now, where does the 21st electron enter? According to this, you see after 4s it is 3d. So the electron is going to enter the 3d1. All right. So where does the electron go? To 3d1. So this, the penultimate shell is now being filled up. This is the ultimate shell. This is the penultimate shell that is being filled up. From here begins the D block elements. All right. So in the fourth period of the periodic table, you see that the D block elements begin after calcium 20. The 21st electron is in the D block elements. So because the 3D1, all right, and therefore when we do the periodic table, it will become easier for you to understand why these elements have been placed in that particular group and that particular period. See, in this case, now the valence electrons are considered to be, in this case, it's considered to be 3. That is why, according to the new way of numbering, the IUPAC pattern that you have to follow is period number 3. But if you go with the old notation, then it would be actually, it would be 1, in this case, it would be 3B. All right. So that is the thing that you have to learn in the next chapter, how the electrons are being, based on the electronic configuration, elements are. All right. So now if I go to atomic number 22, 23, so one by one it will keep adding. All right. So this is how it keeps adding. All right. Till I reach an element with atomic number, let us say 24. All right. So if I'm dealing with an atom element with atomic number 24, which is, I think, chromium. All right. Atomic number 24. Let me erase this and I will go back to, then I'll start writing for chromium. All right, this is where the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity will come into play. You see, chromium, atomic number 24. Again, proton number 24, electrons 24. So we start writing the electronic configuration. So it is going to be 1s2, then we will write 2s2, then we will write 2p6, okay, then 3s2, all right, then 3p6, then 4s2. Remember, till 4s2, it makes it a 20. All right, so it's easier for you to remember. If all the orbitals are completely filled, then till 4s2, calcium 20, this is total number is 20, number of electrons. Now, then it comes to 3d4. Okay, when it comes to 3d4, here you see 4s is completely filled because it has a maximum of 2 electrons and it has taken 2 electrons. But if I talk about the 3D and if I draw the box diagram for this, this is 4s, it has 2 electrons, and this is, the next is 3D next to it. Why, you see, I've shown the energy gap and very little difference of energy is there. That is why it is showing overlapping. Right? And the 4s 3D, you see the electrons will enter 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now this kind of an arrangement where the d orbitals or the p orbitals are not completely filled, all right, this shows less, its energy level is very high and they show less stability. All right, so to attain a half filled stability, now what is the importance in the half filled stability is that all the electrons will enter with the same spin. All right, if the first electron is moving in the clockwise direction, all the electrons entering will be in the clockwise direction. This is to minimize the repulsion between them. See children, in a very small area, so many electrons are entering. So they are doing their part to minimize the inter-electronic repulsions. How will they do it? They are all spinning in the same direction, and that in that way they are maintaining equal distance amongst themselves. If one was in the clockwise and one was in the anti-clockwise, somewhere their fields would get cancelled and there could be attraction between the electrons. All right. So it would disrupt a proper symmetry. So what happens is that they are all spinning in the same direction and they are all occupying the degenerate orbital singly first with the same spin. Now, if you talk about chromium, then this is just one electron short of completing its half-field stability. So if one electron from 4s can jump and go to 3d, then what will happen? That 4s will also have a half-field stability and 3d will also have a half-field stability. So what happens is that one electron from here jumps and occupies this, okay, and the next electronic configuration that you can understand is like this. That is, each of this is having one electron each. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. All right. This is definitely more stable. This is definitely more stable compared to this one. All right. This is less stable. This is less stable. All right. And therefore the actual or the correct electronic configuration for chromium will be written as the first part remaining the same, that is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, all right, 3p6, then 3p6, 4s2, all right, and 3d4. When this becomes incorrect, I mean this part becomes incorrect, and the correct form will be 3p6, this remaining the same, 4s1, all right, and 3d5. All right, this is the correct one. This is the more stable electronic configuration that we will get. And therefore, the electrons will prefer to fill up the orbitals like this. So you can say that wherever there is overlapping, there can be exchange or transition of electrons from like from the fourth shell to the third shell. You see, in this case, from 4s to 3d. So this kind of a movement that is taking place is for the stability of the atom, and therefore what happens is that the atom becomes more stable, and this kind of stability is called as the half-filled stability. All right, so what would a completely filled stability mean? All right, so to do that, let us go to an element with atomic number 29. Okay, that these are the very usual ones that are given in the question paper for you to write down the electronic configuration. See, with atomic number 29, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, till 4s2 we know. So from 4s2, if I start writing, then this is 4s2, this is, I mean, done, okay? And you have 4s2, and then you have 3d9, okay? Now again, if I show in the box diagram, you have 4s2 like this, and you have the 3d9 will have 5, okay, all right, and in this case there are 9 electrons to be filled. All right, so the 9 electrons that will enter are 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then a 5. All right, then once they are filled singly, then the pairing will start. So what will happen in the case of pairing? This one will come here, the 6th electron will come here, then the 7th, then the 8th, and then the 9th. So there is one which is remaining unpaired. All right. Now again, this atom will try to attain stability. This way, if the d orbitals are highly unstable, they just want one more electron to have a completely filled stability. But if you see in the case of 4s2, it is completely filled. So what it does is, it will one of the electrons from 4s will jump and pair up with the electron in the d orbitals in the anti-clockwise. See, within the same orbital, one electron is in the clockwise direction, the other one will be in the anti-clockwise direction. So these electrons will jump and pair up in such a way that the spins are actually getting kind of minimized. The spins are in the opposite direction. So in that case, what will happen is that the electron will then come in from one electron from here will jump and come here, And in the next box diagram, I can show you what you are getting is that the 4s will be 1, all right? And you see, if I have to show with the color, same color that I'm using, then the next, the 9 out of the 9 electrons, 5 are filling up singly, all right? Then the pairing starts. So this is the pairing that starts, okay? Pairing that starts, but here the electron that is there has come from here. So I can show that in red only, right? I can show this in red only. So this is what has happened, and this has paired up. So now you have a 4s1 electronic configuration, and you have a 3d10 electronic configuration. Outermost shell electronic configuration is what you can call. Now they also belong to the D block. All right. Though the D has got 10 electrons now, but it is completely filled. But this has happened at the cost of taking an electron from 4s. So when it takes an electron from 4s, it is making itself as 3d10. And when it is making itself as 3d10, it is showing a completely filled stability. 4s is showing half filled stability, and that is how the atom becomes very much stable. All right. Now the next, what happens to an atom with atomic number 30, which is the zinc, and often asked again. In the case of zinc, see, this is 29, this is 30. So where will the 30th electron enter? Obviously, the 30th electron will enter into the 4s2 and 3d10. Now you see, in this case, this is also completely filled, and this is also completely filled. All right. So what we are trying to see is that the atoms are also trying to have their electronic configurations, which will give stability to the atom. And the rule about Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, you can remember this, that they are first going to occupy the degenerate orbitals singly, and then the pairing will start. So when the pairing starts, if it is short of one electron, then it will allow an electron to jump from a 4s in this case to occupy the unpaired electron in the 3d, and that thereby give more stability to the atom. Now what happens with atomic number 31 then? What happens to the element which is having an atomic number 31? In the case of element with atomic number 31, the electronic configuration as usual here, then you will have 4s2, all right? Then you will have 3d10, and then the p block elements will start. So the p block now starts to fill up. So you are now on the p block elements. So though s, when it is 4s1, then it is 4s2, all right? This 4s1 in the fourth period and the first group, all right, that is with atomic number 19, that is potassium, is in group 1, all right? It has 4s1 electron, but it does not have anything, it does not have any electron in the 3d. Similarly, with 4s2 in the case of calcium, the 3d orbitals are completely empty. But when the 3 from 21, when the electrons start filling in the 3d, then you can have an electronic configuration of 4s1 again with atomic number 24 and 29, because the electrons jump to the 3d orbitals to give extra stability, not extra, you can say more stability to the atom for showing a completely filled stability. All right. Now, why is it that these half filled and completely filled orbitals are more stable? It is because that there is a term called as exchange energy. All right. These electrons can actually exchange places. It's something like resonance that you study in organic chemistry, where they can change places. And because of this change, the more is the number of places that they can change, the more is the exchange energy, and larger the number of exchanges, higher will be the value of exchange energy, and that will contribute greater to the stability of the atom. So this is one term that you have to learn there. All right. So this is what we are learning in Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. All right. Now coming next to, if you go to higher elements, you can write electronic configurations to understand how this is done. If you go to heavier elements where the 4f starts getting involved, there in that case also you can see when you go to the 6th period, let's go to the table and check what I'm telling you just now. All right, if we are talking about, let us say this table here, this is the table that we did, right? Okay, this table here, if you see after 6s, let us say this is the order in which you are filling up the electron. So after 6s, it is 4f, then 5d, then 6p. So between 6s and 6p, there are 2 more orbitals which are being filled up. All right, so that is 4f and 5d. So after 6s, it is 4f, then is 5d. All right, so in this case also the same thing will happen. 6s1, 6s2. Then in group 3, the lanthanides are there in group 3 following the lanthanums. And there you will see that again this change is there. In the f orbitals, there are 7 orbitals, sorry. So in the 7 orbitals, of course, that change of electrons does happen there also. That is jumping from 6s to 4f and likewise. All right. So when we practice out more elements with atomic numbers, then we will be able to do this better. But first, let us finish studying all the rules that we have to study, and then we'll do the next one. Now comes the third one, that is the Pauli's exclusion principle. This is something to do with the quantum numbers. Pauli's exclusion principle will tell you that no 2 electrons in an atom, in one atom, all right, no 2 electrons in an atom will have the same or identical set of quantum numbers. That means that if n, l and m values are same, s will have a different value, that is plus or minus half. We'll do this with an example and then it will be probably easier. I'm taking a little extra time, another 5 minutes more maybe. So let me see how to do this. Okay, so we are talking about electrons which are entering. All right, let us talk about the 17th electron. All right, 17th electron in an atom. I'm not saying it is the outermost. I'm not saying it is the innermost. I'm just talking about a 17th electron in an atom. So if I talk about the 17th electron, the electronic configuration will go like 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, then 3s2, all right, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 3p5. So 3p5. Now here will the jumping of electron take place? It doesn't take place here. All right, here it does not become 3s1 and 3p5 because the energy difference between s and p is quite, you cannot ignore. I mean, the difference is more than what it is between a 4s and a 3d. Therefore, within the same shell orbitals, the jumping of electron does not occur. So this remains as 3s2 and 3p5. So how will I write? In the case of 3s, you have 2 electrons. Okay. Then I'm talking about the 15th electron. Sorry, 17th electron. So when I'm talking about the 17th electron, how will it enter? Okay. So first, second, third, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 3p5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. If this was 3p4, let us say, if this was 3p4, would the electron jump from here? No, not in this case. Okay. But if this is 3p5, okay. So this is the 17th electron. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, till here 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and this is the 17th electron. I have to write its electronic configuration. So where, children, I made a mistake and even you all are not pointing out. This is 3p, it is supposed to have only 3 orbitals. Even you all are not telling me. Are you all listening or not? Okay, it's supposed to have 3. You did not point out then. Because I was doing 3D and I continued doing 3D. So I'm talking about 3p5, and what I'm saying is that 3p, this is having 5 electrons. So it will enter like this, 3 electrons, and then the other 2 will pair up. All right, it will pair up. Now, does this mean that in this case also the electron will jump and go to 3p? No. In third shell, there is no jumping of electrons taking place between 3s and 3p. Okay, because the energy difference is more. Now, what happens is I have to write down the quantum number of the 17th electron. So, which one is the 17th electron? Children will absent-mindedly take this one. This is not the 17th electron. It is actually, you see, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So till here it is 12. Then 13, 14, 15, 16. And this is the 17th electron. This is the 17th electron. You see? And that is why what will be its set of quantum numbers. So its set of quantum numbers will be which period it is going to? Third period. So n will equal to 3. Which subshell it is in? P subshell. So what is the value for the P subshell? It will be 1. Clear? Then what is the value of the M, magnetic quantum number? So in this case, since it is the middle one, the M can have values. That also I was explaining to you that M can have values from plus L to 0 to minus L. All right, or minus L, 0 to plus L, whatever way you take. In this case, since it is in the Px, Py and Pz, if this is Px, this is Py and Pz, the center one is always a 0. So here you get M is equal to 0. Okay. And S will equal to what? S will equal to, since it is the second electron which is entering the orbital, then we are going to write a minus half. All right. We are going to write a minus half. Now you tell me one thing. If you had to write the electronic configuration of the 14th electron. Okay, this is for the 17th electron. If you had to write for 14th electron, then what would you do? Let us say you have to write for the 14 electron. Okay, now I hope I have. All right, so let me see 14th electron. 14th electron. Okay, now which one is the 14th electron? This is still here, it is 12. Then this is 13. This one is the 14th electron. This one is the 14th electron. I will show it in a different color so that you understand. This is the 14th electron entering. Okay. If this is the 14th electron, then what will be its electron quantum numbers? Set of quantum numbers will be what in that case? Then also n will equal to 3. All right. L will equal to 1 because it is the p orbital. M will equal to 0. You see, M will equal to 0. But since it is the first electron which is entering the p y orbital, then S will equal to plus half. All right. So here we are trying to talk about the Pauli's exclusion principle. What are we saying? That whenever we are talking about any two electrons in an atom, okay, they will never have an identical set of quantum numbers. They can have 3 quantum numbers same, but one of the quantum numbers will be different. So if the n, l and m values are same, at least the s will have a different value, that is minus or plus 1. All right. Now, suppose if I'm talking about, if this is the 14th electron we were talking about, let us talk about, let us say, one more that we can take an example from here only. Suppose if I'm talking about the 15th electron. All right. So if I'm talking about the 15th electron, then the 15th electron is this one. This is the 15th electron. So for the 15th electron, what will be the set of quantum numbers be like? N will equal to 3. All right. L will equal to 1. You see? All right. P will equal to, M will equal to, since it is the PZ I am taking, I can take it as minus 1. Depends on what convention. See, you can start with a minus 1, 0 and plus 1, or you can start with a plus 1, 0 and minus 1. It totally depends on the convention. That is why most of the time they give you electrons which belong to the middle one, so that the 0 is the correct answer for that. So M is minus 1 equal to plus 1 minus 1, whatever you want to take it as, minus 1. And you see S will have a value equal to plus half. All right. S will have a value equal to plus half. Now you compare the 15th electron. Okay. You compare the n is equal to 3, n is equal to 3, L is equal to 1, L is equal to 1, M is equal to minus 1 in this case. You see, but though S is plus half and S is plus half. So though 3 quantum numbers are same, fourth one is going to be different. All right. So this is what the Pauli's exclusion principle tells you, that for an atom, no two electrons in an atom will have the identical set of quantum numbers. All right. And when we were doing quantum numbers, I told you that how to, write the quantum numbers, and how, certain set of quantum numbers are not permissible. Like if L is equal to 0, M cannot have a value other than 0. All right. So those things we have to understand. If N is equal to 3, value of L will never equal to 3. If n is equal to 3, the value of L will never equal to 3. It can have values 3 in numbers, that is 0, 1 and 2. Numerical number of permissible values will be 3, but it has to start from 0 to n minus 1, that is 0, 1 and 2. So these are the things that we will be doing in the questions. When we practice, you will learn how it is to be done. But for today, I think this much is enough. And whatever we have done so far, you can, kind of go through what we have done, and you can actually go through the book to see what all you have to study in that, and those exceptional electronic configurations you have to learn. They don't give very difficult ones, just to test your concept that they will give you. But tomorrow when we have a class, maybe we will do some more electronic configurations, and how you are going to write those electronic configurations, and how we will apply all the rules there. That is the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, and the Pauli's exclusion principle also. We'll see how it is applicable and how true it is when we are applying it to the electrons. Okay, children? Enough for today then? I think it's almost 1 hour. Yes, children?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Did you all follow what we did?
Yes, miss.
I want all of you to tell me yes or no. Some of you have
Yes,
just... Because, see, I'm trying to do the diagrams and show you so that it becomes easier for you to understand. Okay, children. Thank you then. Thank you for connecting.
Thank you, miss.